everyone and welcome to Poppy DIY Crafts. Today we're going to be making some resin light bulbs. I've seen a few of these and they look really fun to make. Many of the ones I've seen have flowers in them or other objects. Today I want to try a different technique. I want to add ribbons of color inside a clear light bulb. I've never done this before, so hopefully it'll work. The molds I'm using today is sent to me from That's Resin, so thank you so much. Inside the package, we have two molds. One is a regular light bulb shape, and the second one is elongated. The set also comes with 4 LED lights, 2 warm yellows, and 2 cool whites. And we also have 10 caps. For the colors, I'm going to be using epoxy pigment paste. And the reason I'm using this is because the colors are very thick, and I'm hoping that this will create ribbons inside the resin. For the resin, I'm going to be using this type of resin. This is from Sophie Toffee, and it says it's meant for thicker pours. I know with regular resins, if the resin is too deep, it can overheat and flash cure. Alright, let's get our gloves on and get started. The first thing we're going to do is mix the resin, and I can tell right away that this resin is very thin. After mixing the resin, we're going to pour it into the molds. We're going to fill it all the way up to the top. Now we're going to wait. This resin is very thin, so I want to wait for it to thicken. Since this is a deep pour one, I'm going to wait about 35 minutes. It's been about an hour and the resin is still pretty thin, but let's go ahead and add the pigment. So here's my pigment. I'm going to coat a stick with it. We're going to coat it about 3 inches up, and we're going to make it pretty thick. Here I'm just going to dip the stick right into the resin and give it a swirl. And from what I can see, the colors did not leave the stick. So I think what happened was that the resin coated the pigment and the pigment was too thick to flow out. Here is the red pigment. This time I'm going to dip it in real quick to grab some resin. And then in a separate cup, I'm going to take it out and dilute it a little bit. Putting it back into the mold, you can see the swirl of color. We're going to do the same thing to the blue one. And take the pigment, dip it into the resin, dilute it in a separate cup, and then swirl inside the mold. Now for the second mold, we're going to do the same thing. So I can see ribbons of colors inside the mold. Hopefully it'll stay that way. So now we're going to wait for it to cure. So it's been about 12 hours and the resin is setting very slow. So over here the left side is kind of firm, but not hard yet. On the left side, this bulb one, you can see it's still very soft. I can squish it. So I'm going to wait a full 24 hours and hopefully we can demold it and see what happened. I'm a little bit concerned about the colors. As you can see, the colors have completely spread. So I am thinking we will not be able to see kind of clear swirls inside the resin. So maybe we might need to do this again. Alright everyone, so it's been more than a day. Let's go ahead and demold this. Oh my goodness, I'm not too confident about this. So it seems like this resin shrunk a bit because we're missing some resin here on the bottom. So as you can see, this one did not turn out very good. All the colors essentially mixed and I did not see any swirls mixed into the clear. So essentially just have kind of a solid greenish tinted light bulb with a bunch of white here on the bottom. And this mold is pretty good. As you can see, I flipped it all the way inside out and we can flip it back again and reuse it like that. So it's good as new. Okay, let's go ahead and check out this light bulb. And the instructions did say to add some soapy water to help loosen it up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so this one is really hard to remove. Okay, there it is. Oh. And okay, just like the green one, the blue and the purple mixed, or rather the blue and the red mixed, and so we have shades of purple in here, and we don't have any clear spots. So I think we're gonna have to redo this. Let's go ahead and try it again. This time I'm going to use regular epoxy resin, so it should cure it a bit faster, and I'll wait until the resin is stickier before I add the colors. Alright, so take 2. We're going to try it again. This time I'm going to use regular resin. So I mixed the resin and we're going to pour it into the mold. Since this is regular resin, I'm not going to wait a whole hour. Instead, I'm going to give it about 20-25 minutes before we add in the colorant. So starting with this one, let's add in our colors. Okay, so this one is looking okay. The resin is pretty thick, so I don't think the colors will move too far. Let's move on to the second light bulb. And as you can see here, this top part has already solidified. So I think it has started to flash cure because of the amount of resin we have in this mold. And so this is very thick. I see a lot of bubbles in here. But I'm going to go ahead and put in the colors just to see. Alright everyone, so here is take 2, or our second batch. It's been a day and the resin is completely hard. Let's go ahead and take it out. This mold is actually really good. I flipped it completely inside out, and as you can see, it is perfectly fine. So here is our light bulb. It is filled with bubbles, like a lot of bubbles. I don't know if you can see this, but I think it looks kind of cool. So here we have a lot of bubbles on the inside, and then we have a few swirls of color. Let's go ahead and take this one out. Alright, so this one also has a ton of bubbles. Oh my goodness. And we have a bit of the color on the inside. That is really interesting. Alright, third try. This time I'm going to use a different resin. This resin is a little bit old, so it is kind of yellow. As you can see here, it's not completely clear, but we are just testing it out at this point, so I just want this technique to work. So we're going to pour in the resin into the mold. We're going to wait about 15 minutes and then add in the colors. And this time I'm just going to keep it simple and use white. On this first one, I'm going to use the stick method. And on the second one, I'm going to pour in the colorant on top and then use a stick to stir it in. I'm not going to stir too much because I do want to see the ribbons. Alright everyone, so this is my third try. Let's go ahead and demold it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I think it looks really cool. You can see the wisps of white inside. So here's the other one. You can see the white on the inside, little streaks of it. So this set comes with 4 LED lights, 2 run yellow and 2 run white. So as you can see here, they toggle by touch. So when you touch it, it turns on and off. So that is really cool. I'm going to pair that with one of these caps. Just stick them in there with the lights facing up. And that way, every time you tap it, it lights up. Alright, so I have the lights off and you can see how cool it is. So unfortunately, there is a lot of bubbles, and I think that was my fault. I was stirring it a little bit too much, and then since I had so much resin, and I was afraid it was going to flash cure because it was such a large quantity, and so I poured it into the molds. And so as a result, as you can see, we do have a lot of bubbles, but we can certainly fix that. I do like this technique of putting in the colors late so it doesn't blend into the resin completely. Here is the white bulb, and this one has a little bit more colors on one side, so it's a little bit more saturated. That side is kind of dark, but this side is clear, and there is a string of white going down. Looking really, really cool. I love this bottom part. So here is the two of them side by side. And here is set number 2, the one where they flash cured and there was a ton of bubbles. So as you can see, the light is not penetrating up to the top and we only have lights on the bottom. And here is the first set. So this is the first one we made. The pigment totally blended into the resin, so most of the light is not going through at all. So this one would not work very well as a light bulb. Alright everyone, this was such an interesting project. I didn't think I would have to do it 3 times, but I learned a lot from it. So I learned that we can make these ribbons of color show up in clear resin and it looks really great, but you really do need to time it perfectly. So we can use regular resin, but we can only wait about 15 minutes before we put in the colors. As for the molds are excellent. I've already used this 3 times and the mold is still as good as new. Inside is still very shiny and it comes with enough pieces for you to make 10 light bulbs. However, there are only 4 LED lights, so if you want lights in all of them, you do need to purchase more lights. So if you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye!